Hello and welcome to Triathlonology, a triathlon podcast by Animis racing team. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Jacqui. We are a mum and son coaching team who have changed our lives through the sport of triathlon.
Our podcast aims to break down the mysteries of triathlon training and show you, the listener, how simple and flexible it can be so that it really does become part of your lifestyle and not just a hobby.
Hola!
And welcome to another episode of Triathlonology, a podcast brought to you by Animis Racing Team. This time, as Chris Akabusi would say, live and direct from our training base here in Quateria, Villamora in the Algarve.
And it's late afternoon while we're recording this, and it is still very hot. And as you can see, very sunny.
And just in case for any of our readers at home are seeing something blue over Jackie's shoulder, that's what the sky's supposed to look like, and not grey like we've been experiencing in England for 6 months.
Yes.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about, particularly because this has come up quite a bit while we've been here, about mastering longer form racing. So 70.3 and Ironman type racing and the essential sort of insights that are required to be able to do that, because that's been a topic that has kept coming up time and time again.
Yeah, nearly every day this week. Because we've got a new person who has joined us who's never done a triathlon before, and she wants to do an Ironman. So
jumping in at the deep
end.
But with our assistance, she will be fine.
Yeah.
So but it's not like we've not dealt with people who've just started by doing an Ironman before, is it? Or like that has been the main goal, isn't it? So like we dealt when we were coaching Hallam Triathlon at the university there. We helped Brad when he did Ironman Wales.
Yeah, we've never done one before.
I'd never done one before. He did the Bucks event at the end of March, and then went and did Ironman Wales and did very well. And then there was Claire, who was albeit a seasoned triathlete. She'd done a few sprints in Olympics and what have you, and a half, but then she wanted to make a main goal for that year to be an Ironman. So we have some experience in coaching people through longer distances events, particularly when they're a bit more of a novice to it. But it is similar, but a different style of training to what you'd be doing if you were doing short course, really.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we've still got Yorkshire tea.
Well, yeah, I can't drink any other rubbish other than Lord Nelson, and we're not going to Lidl this year, so we're not getting Lord Nelson out of the way.
No.
Well, any preparation for a 70.3 or a full Ironman is always going to be about courage, sticking to a plan, determination, as well as that cliche blood, sweat and tears, because it's definitely going to involve all three of those at some point before you cross the finish line. Yeah, and mental fortitude. And also, can you get on with yourself? Because I can't. One of the reasons I don't ever want to do an Ironman is because I can't stand more than 6 hours on my own company. That's more than enough for me. And I don't want to do like 10 or 14 hours on my own. No. So given that it's going to be quite a difficult event and a bit more grueling than an Olympic or a sprint triathlon in a different way. Yeah, because I think it's all in a different way, because if you've ever done a duathlon, especially a standard distance duathlon, that is freaking hard. But it's a different type of hard. This is what I think we're trying to get over, is it's a different type of hard. And it needs to be treated as that. Yeah. And although we often talk about triathlon being an aerobic endurance sport, because most people take more than an hour to do a sprint triathlon, and if you're doing anything for more than an hour, then it's an aerobic exercise. 70.3 and Ironman is definitely the most aerobic of aerobic exercises. Yeah. Because, if you take the cut-offs, you're looking at, 9 hours for a half Ironman, 8 hours for a half Ironman, and, 17 and 18 hours for an Ironman event. So the best part of a day, or half a day, quite literally, you're going to have to be using your heart and lungs to propel yourself forward.
So, what do we need?
Well, I suppose we always start with in the logical order, swimming.
Yeah.
Swimming is a key when you're doing long distance events or middle distance events, because it's that where you will not be able to catch up from as you're getting into the other disciplines. So if you aren't swim fit, you'll get found out quickly and most likely probably end up walking on the run, because it won't be the bike that will necessarily, you'll feel it on. It'll be the run where you don't have much left and you're having to walk. In most cases, that's traced back to not doing enough distance swimming or not doing enough swim training to be able to swim your distance comfortably in what are going to be difficult conditions, because you'll have lots of people surrounding you. Well, it's not so much the same anymore because they have wave starts rather than a mass start, don't they? But even still, you still, especially if it's a looped course, you're still going to have lots of people in the water around you, some of them faster, some of them slower, which is not the same as swimming in a lane, which is 3 meters across. They're going to be, and people will behave and largely respect the rules of swimming in a swimming pool. You're going to still have people crawling all over you. So being able to be fit and swim the distance while all those distractions are going on will give you so much more confidence and security to able to keep swimming without panicking. But then you'll get out having kept your heart rate relatively stable. You won't have built up too much lactic acid that you've then got to disperse, and you won't be in a panic when you get on your bike, because you won't be thinking, oh no, I've really messed this up. I've got to chase hard down my bike to catch up.
I think it's the panic that uses so much energy. People totally underestimate it, because you will panic. You will be thinking, there's only 10 bikes left, or there's only 50 bikes left in transition and one of them's mine. What have I been doing? And then you're already starting with your negative self-talk.
So that's really the building block of
a successful
middle distance or long distance triathlon, in our opinion, is swimming. And that's coming from two people who aren't swimmers as children, or as even early 20s people. We were both I were in my mid-20s when I started, and you were in your 50s, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in my 50s, so
But as coaches, we really see the benefit in being able to swim your distance before you get in. Then, obviously, taking it to its next logical conclusion is talking about biking or cycling. Now, this is where, in our opinion, it becomes really a matter of strength endurance rather than just tickling along, tapping away on your pedals and doing high cadence, because for a long period of time, you're going to need your legs to power you. Now, even if you do 15 miles an hour on average, you're still looking at 7 or 8 hours on the bike to complete the course. If you're going faster than that, you're still looking at sort of 6 hours to do it. That's a long time to be working your legs in an up and down fashion. So we always incorporate big gear sets in training, whatever level, but it's more particularly important for longer distance events, because that will help build specific bike strength while also giving you endurance conditioning at the same time.
And that's vital for race day.
And then, as part of that mix, we would add in a tempo type session where you're racing or you're training at just above your race pace effort, so that you're getting a bit more. You're tuning your aerobic engine, and the more that you increase if you can increase your anaerobic engine rather, you increase that a little bit, it's going to leave the gap for your aerobic engine to sort of catch it up a little bit and build that at the same time as extending your upper level. And so that's also a building block that we want to put in there, so that you are both endurance and strength-wise improving, but also improving that top end, so that you've got more room to grow for your endurance and you're not just training in the grey zone all the time.
Yeah, because people do fall foul of that and think, I've got to get out on my bike, I've got to do this. But if you're not following a specific plan, that is very difficult and you will fall in that trap.
And then duration for long rides really is dependent on the person and your individual makeup. But as a general rule of thumb, no longer than 4 hours, we would say, is how far you go, because once you get past 4 hours, you start to lose the benefits of the training that you've accumulated, because your recovery time becomes compromised. It starts to take more out of you than you would benefit from by gaining by doing it.
Yeah.
And we say this all the time to athletes: training time is cumulative. So just because you do a 4-hour ride on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever it might be, because that's your weekend, it doesn't mean that that's the furthest that you've cycled, because if you've done training during the week, that all adds up. So you might have done another 4 hours in the week of cycling training, let's say, or in some cases, maybe 3.
Yeah.
So overall, your load for the week is 7 hours worth of cycling, which is plenty enough.
Yeah.
Because that's building up over time. It's not just, hey, go out and do a 7-hour ride on a Saturday. That's it.
And you've destroyed your weekend. You're not going to recover from it in time for your next training session. So what's the point?
And you've also got a family to maintain, or a relationship to maintain, and that's saying, I'm off on my bike for 7 hours. It would be nice, but you're not a professional. So 4 hours is about roughly where we cut off at bike, because you start ending up taking more away from that you're gaining.
So next thing we're going to talk about is running. Because people really stress about running and say, I've got to run a marathon and what have you. Well, you ain't got to run a marathon in training. And marathon runners don't run a marathon in training.
No, they might go to 18 miles, 20 miles at most.
At most.
But even that, yes, when you get to running, again, we want to be building strength into the run. So that comes from doing hill sets. And if you live in a particularly flat area, or you live in the middle of a busy city, that becomes a bit more dangerous to run on the hills. Treadmills are great for these, because you can adjust the incline, and do shorter hill sessions or repeat hill sessions. They're really good for building leg strength and for increasing your cadence.
Yeah.
And then most of your running in all likelihood is going to be relatively easy, because that's the thing that damages your body the most.
It's got an effect on your joints, on every part of your body it's affected by.
And so what we're really looking to do is just condition you on this. And there will be like the odd session that's a bit more difficult, or sharpening the knife, but you can really build your conditioning by easy runs and use that as active recovery from your other sessions. So you might do more harder bike sessions, but that your heart and lungs don't know the difference between riding your bike or being running in terms of effort, or swimming in terms of effort. Your legs do, but if you're doing 40 minutes easy and then an hour on a hill session, again, like your long run, we would say we always run for time rather than distance.
We also like walk-run strategies, don't we?
So like a 2-hour long run would be more than enough. You're looking at getting, 10 or 12 miles in at that point. But again, it's all cumulative. And unlike a marathon runner, you're not just training for a marathon. You're training for a triathlon, which requires you to be able to swim and cycle at the same time. So you have to put it all together as one sport, and not just try and blast your way through into, I'm just going to run like a marathoner, I'm going to cycle like an endurance cyclist, and swim like a marathon swimmer, because it ain't ever going to work. It's just there aren't enough hours in the day, and even if there were, the techniques are not going to blend enough for you to be able to get the most out of that.
So, and also, one of the non-negotiables is rest and recovery. Because if you don't have that in your schedule and you're not getting proper sleep, then you're never going to be able to adapt to the training. You're going to always feel sore. I mean, you will feel sore. When I was at the top of my 70.3s, there were a day that I didn't ache in some way, or I didn't have where I woke up in the morning, I thought that feels a bit stiff, because your body just will always have that kind of thing, those things wrong with it. But that's not to say that that's unusual. It isn't. It should be like that. But you can make things. You want to be trying to recover to the best of your ability while you're at work or while you're at home after you've done your training. And sleeping is like the one thing that you can get the most recovery from. That's when your body gets a chance to repair itself and adapt to the training that you've been doing. And you get better sleep by training earlier. So we have a general rule that you really shouldn't train after 8 p.m. because the endorphins and the adrenaline that will still be through your body will compromise your sleep sufficiently.
that you won't go to sleep till later and have less sleep and be less recovered, and so you might as well not bother doing the training because you've not got the benefits of it, and it all sort of like snowballs out of control a bit from there. And we know that that's sometimes difficult for people, but consistency is built over weeks rather than just day by day. So if you have to miss a session because something goes wrong at work and you have to stay late, that's fine. Don't try banging it in at 9 o'clock at night because it's really not worth it for your recovery afterwards, in my opinion.
I agree, Oliver. I agree. And I mean, I've been known to have naps at work. Then again, I work for myself, so it's I can do that. But sleep is the most underrated training tool. Yeah.
And if you can, I mean, and it's free as well.
Yeah.
There's triathletes like nothing else other than spending money on recovery gadgets and what have you. I mean, we'll sit here and tell you the same. We've got a pair of like compression legs and a sauna blanket and all that jazz. But really, the absolute best recovery tool you can have is sleep.
Yeah. Having a comfortable bed, good pillows.
And good sleep hygiene, like I say, like taking your pillow. I've suffered while we've been here because my pillows are far too soft for me, which is like a first world problem, I know. But I think next year, I'm just going to bring my own pillows from home.
Well, I don't know how you're going to manage that, but anyway.
I'll fasten them to my back or put them under a Ryanair jacket or something because actually having your own pillows will be so much better than having whatever like your Airbnb's got or the Premier Inn, or particularly if you're staying away before the race day, try and take stuff that's familiar to you.
Yeah.
Because you'll already not have a very good, if you're staying overnight the night before your event, you're probably not going to have a very good sleep anyway because you'll be nervous. Also, humans don't sleep very well in the first night in a new environment because you're constantly looking out for predators. Science fact. But if you take things that are familiar to you, like your own pillows, if you're driving somewhere, maybe your own duvet, so it'd be basically bringing your own bed with you.
That's just what like Team Sky used to do.
Well, it is, but it works, and there's a reason why it's now been adopted by other cycling teams and why football teams are doing it. And I imagine that's something that Danny Rail's going to be wanting to bring in at Sheffield Wednesday, and why Marcello Bielsa built that sleep pod thing at Leeds so that they could have recovery between training sessions, because it works. But there are other recovery tools, as we've said. We have the compression legs from MyoMaster. They're great. We take them everywhere we go. They are fantastic. We have a infrared sauna blanket. That's great because you just get a nice little warm sweat on by sitting in that while you're watching football. Or
actually makes me go to sleep for half an hour.
We've got the MyoMaster Theraguns, haven't we? That we use for massaging them. To be fair, Jess uses them more on her shoulders and back muscles for I've done her aerial hoop than I do for triathlon.
So the other thing that people forget about is nutrition. Now, I'm not talking about having a shepherd's pie or fish and chips or whatever. It's a given that you've got to eat nutritious, lots of protein and what have you. But what I'm talking about here is nutrition in your race, because there will be nutrition available on the course. So if you're going to rely on that, then you need to know what they're going to be using. Is it going to be SIS? Is it going to be I5? Or like in Ironman races, it's Morton. Now Morton is fantastic, but it's really expensive. So what you need to, if you're doing, especially on your long training rides or your long run or whatever, you need to be using the same
stuff that you're going to be using on race day. And if that's what Ironman are providing and you're going to rely on that, then you need to be adapting to that. But
it trains your gut.
You don't necessarily need to use fancy stuff. A long ride don't need to cost you 30 quid, the gels and stuff that you're taking out with you. You can, have take some chocolate or a bit of flapjack or some squash. Or a bit of bicarb soda in it. So you can make your own things, but then you're going to have to remember to take them with you, particularly if you're racing abroad where they might not have those sort of things. When I'm doing the long distance event on the bike, I eat peanut M&Ms because they don't melt. If it's hot, not that I've ever done a 70.3 when it's been hot, it's always wanged it down with rain on it on every single one I've ever done. So it's probably me with a little black rain cloud following me around. Why? but they don't melt, they don't really stick together. So you can just pick and eat them. Flapjack the same, you can break a bit off and have that. And then I have gels when I'm running because I can't take solid food when I just get stitch.
Yeah. So that's what we would say to do about that. And one thing that Oliver always says is that no plan
survives first contact. Yes, no plan does survive first contact. So have a backup.
Yeah, need to be flexible, and you need to have this in mind when you're training, because you might be, deciding that you're going on a bike ride to, I don't know, X, Y, and Z, and when you set off, you go a flat tyre, or you meet a load of traffic, or cows in road, or you've got to be able to have the mental. This is what I'm talking about, mental resilience, to be able to cope with that and to be able to deal with it.
And then feedback, if you've got a coach that's coaching you through this, feedback to them that you've had this problem, this is what you've done, and they can usually adjust the plan for the next day and the days going forward. But nothing's ever a problem. It's just a different way of solving it. So stuff happens, and it means that you don't get your long ride in. Okay, well, there'll be a long ride next week. But if you've got an hour in, that's fine. Over the course of things, it really won't make much of a difference. Things like taking a banana with you and stuff like that in your pocket, or some fruit that you can eat. There's chance. I know this for a fact. Bananas are the same all the worldwide. All grown in Derby, all grown from Derbyshire at Cavendish. Chatsworth House. So every single banana comes from Chatsworth House in Derbyshire, which is near enough to Yorkshire, so we can claim that. But bananas are the same. Don't matter where you go in the world, bananas are all the same.
Although I've got to say, the best tasting bananas are from Marks and Spencer's. That's my opinion. Just saying.
They're all, so it's being adaptable. I think, I'll get somewhere and I've forgotten my gels, because we've done that before. We've been to races and forgotten our gels for running. What have we done? We've got our Mars bar. Because you know what you're getting with the Mars bar. Probably not the best choice that we've ever made.
But it did a job.
It did a job, and it's easier to carry in your pocket than a banana when you're running. But if we were cycling, get a couple of bananas, stick them in your cycling pocket round the back, off you go.
So, what do we learned from all this? Well, everything's a puzzle. It's how we put it all together. And from your training to nutrition to recovery, everything fits together. And that's why having a coach really works, because they can help you with putting all those pieces of the puzzle together. And it actually gives you confidence as an athlete that you're going to be able to achieve your goal. Because at the end of the day, we're all rooting for you.
And your coach is going to pick up on stuff. They'll get to know you probably better than everybody else in your life. And they'll pick up on when something ain't quite right, or if something is being a bit odd, or if you're feeling a bit stressed. And because stress can harm your recovery, really. And granted, we all have work stress and what have you, but take a bit of mindfulness, or using a Headspace app, or putting a Headspace on for YouTube. Jess loves putting Headspace on for going to sleep in when she's having a difficult day. And to be honest, I normally eat the pillow and I'm asleep. But a Headspace really helps her switch her mind off and relax. And that is something that will be helpful as a recovery tool as well, and to keep you on the straight and narrow way, because it is going to be a stressful experience, because you've paid all this money to do an event, you've told all your family and friends that you're doing this event, you all think you're mental, you're training for this event, and you're thinking, God, I've got to do it, I've got to finish this, and what happens if I don't? And all these thoughts are completely natural, but you've got to quieten that inner monkey, as Dr. Steve Peters would say, and find different bits to zone out and recover. I don't necessarily, I watch football to relieve stress for me. I find that I can watch anything.
You've got to remember, we're Sheffield Wednesday fans, so we are used to dealing with adversity.
Yes, but I will quite happily watch an afternoon of football, and that'll just completely distress me because I enjoy watching it. But that's not for all good. I'll watch cricket or something like that, but that's what I enjoy. So there are different things that you can do to de-stress. You don't have to just be all yoga and meditation and stuff. Going for a long walk with the dog or whatever it might be. All these things are really helpful and should be part of your armoury for when you're preparing for a longer distance event.
So as always, if you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Yep, readers of the show are more than welcome to DM and email us.
Yeah, and if you want to come on the show, let us know. We'd love it.
Yeah, we would. We absolutely would. So that's wrapped up this episode. If you would like to find out more, you can get in touch with us. Check the show notes, they'll be in there. But until next time, I've been Coach Oliver.
I've been Coach Jacqui.
And we'll see thee.
Thank you for joining us today.
See you next time.
See you then. Or as we say in Yorkshire, see thee.